Skanda 4. The genealogy of Manu and the Rishis. Skanda 4, Chapter 1. In every Manvantara, there are one Manu, sons of Manu, Devas, Indra or king of the Devas, 7 Rishis, and 1 avatara of Vishnu. The avatars of Purusha propel Manu and others to their work. At the end of every cycle of 4 yugas, the Rishis, by their tapas, find out the lost Shrutis and revive the old Dharma. The Manus propound the Dharma. The sons of Manu, including their descendants and others, preserve the Dharma in their respective times to the end of the Manvantara. The Devas help them in their work. Indra preserves the Triloki and sends down rains. In the Swayambhuva Manvantara, Swayambhuva was Manu. The Tushita Devas were the Devatas, Marichi and others were the 7 Rishis. Yagna was both Avatara and Indra. Priyavrata and Uttanapada were the 2 sons of Manu. A number of genealogical tables are given below. Swayambhuva Manu married Shatarupa, gave birth to Priyavrata, Uttanapada, Akuti and Devahuti. Akuti married Ruchi and gave birth to Kapila. Devahuti married Kardama and gave birth to Kala. And Prasuti married Daksha. Kala married Marichi, Anasuya married Atri, Shraddha married Angirasa, Havirbhu married Pulastya, Gati married Pulaha, Kriya married Kratu, and Khyati married Brigu, Arundhati married Vasishta, Sauti married Adharvan. Kala, Anasuya, Shraddha, Havirbhu, Gati, Kriya, Khyati, Arundhati and Sauti. They are children of Kapila and Kardama. Ruchi married Akuti, gave birth to Yagna. Yagna married his sister Dakshina and gave birth to Tosha, Pratosha, Santosha, Bhadra, Sauti, Idampati, Idma, Kavi, Vibhu, Swahara, Sudiva, Rochana. The sons of Yagna or Sushita Devas of first Manvantara. Marichi married Kala, gave birth to Kashyapa and Purnima. Purnima gave birth to Viraja, Vishwaga, Devakulya. River Ganges in subsequent incarnation is the incarnation of Devakulya. Atri married Anasuya, gave birth to Datta, Durvasas and Soma. Angirasa married Shraddha, gave birth to Sinivali, Kuhu, Raka, Anumati, Utatya, Vrihaspati. Pulastya married Havirbhu, gave birth to Agastya and Viswaras. Agastya married Ilavila and Kesini. Through Ilavila, Agastya gave birth to Kuvera. Through Kesini, Agastya gave birth to Ravana, Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana. Pulaha married Gati, gave birth to Karmasreshta, Barias, Sahishu. Kratu married Kriya, gave birth to 60,000 Balakhilya rishis. Vasishta married Arundhati, gave birth to Chitraketu, Surochi, Viraja, Mitra, Ulvana, Vasubhirdayana and Duyuman. Adharvan married Chitti, gave birth to Dadhichi. Bhrigu married Khyati, gave birth to Dhata, Vidhata, Sri, Kavi. Dhata married Ayati, Vidhata married Niyati. Dhata and Ayati gave birth to Mrikandu, in turn gave birth to Markandeya. Vidhata married Niyati, gave birth to Vedasiras. Kavi gave birth to Usanas. Daksha married Prasuti, gave birth Daksha married Prasuti and also married Dharma. Through Dharma, they gave birth to Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti. Daksha married Prasuti and gave birth to Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti. Through Shraddha gave birth to Satya, Maitri gave birth to Prasada, Daya gave birth to Abhaya, and Shanti gave birth to Sema. Daksha and Prasuti also gave birth to Tushti, Pushti, Kriya, Unnati, Buddhi, Medha, Tiksha, Lajja, Murti, Swaha, Swadha, Sati. Tushti gave birth to Harsha, Pushti to Garva, Kriya to Yoga, Unnati to Darpa, Buddhi to Ardha, Medha to Smriti, Tiksha to Kshema, Lajja to Vinaya. Murti married Dharma, gave birth to Nara, Narayana. Swaha married Agni, gave birth to Pavaka, Pavaman, and Suchi. Swadha married to Pitris, gave birth to Vayuna and Dhurini. Sati married to Shiva. Adharma married Mithya, gave birth to Damba and Maya. Damba got married and gave birth to Lobha. Maya gave birth to Satata. Lobha gave birth to Krodha, Hinsa. Satata to Hinsa. They gave birth to Kali and Durukti, in turn gave birth to Mrityu and Bhiti, and in turn gave birth to Niraya, Yatana. Uttanapada married Suruchi, gave birth to Uttama. Married Suniti, gave birth to Dhruva. Dhruva married Yila, gave birth to Utkala and a daughter. Dhruva married Bharami as well and gave birth to Kalpa and Vatsara. Utkala married Prabha. Vatsara married Suviti and gave birth to Pushparna, Tigmaketu, Isha, Urja, Vasu, Jaya. Utkala married Prabha, gave birth to Pratar, Madhyandina, Sayam. Sayam married Dosha, gave birth to Pradosha, Nisita, Vyushta. Vyushta married Pushkarini, gave birth to Sarvatejas, or Chakshus married to Akuti, gave birth to Manu. Manu married to Nadwala, gave birth to Puru. Kritasna, Rita, Vrata, Agnishtoma, Atiratra, Pradyumna, Siva, Sivi, Ulmuka. Ulmuka gave birth to Anga, Sumanas, Swati, Kratu, Angiras, Gaya. Sunita gave birth to Vena. Vena gave birth to Prithu, married Archi, and gave birth to Vijitatsava, Haryaksha, Dhumrakesha, Vrika, Dravina. Vijitatsva married or Antardhana, married Shikandini, gave birth to Pavaka, Pavaman, Suchi. Vijitatsva also married Nabhaswati, gave birth to Habirdhana. Habirdhana married Habirdhani and gave birth to Barhishad, Gaya, Sukla, Krishna, Satya, Jitabrata, or Prachina Barhi. Barhishad or Prachina Barhi married Satadruti, daughter of ocean god, gave birth to 10 Prachetas. 10 Prachetas married the vegetable daughter of Kaudu and Pramlochna, gave birth to Daksha of Chakshusha Manvantara. Daksha married to Asikni, daughter of Panchajana, gave birth to 10,000 Haryasva, 1,000 Sabalasva, 60 daughters. Out of 60 daughters, 10 were married to Dharma, 2 were married to Bhuta, 2 were married to Angiras, 2 were married to Krisasva, 4 were married to Tarksha, 27 were married to Moon, and 13 were married to Kashyapa. Dharma married to Bhanu, gave birth to Devarshava, Indrasena. Dharma married Lamba, gave birth to Vidyota, the clouds. Dharma married to Kakua, gave birth to Shankata and Kikata. Dharma married to Yami, gave birth to Swarga and in turn to Nandi. Dharma married to Vishwa gave birth to the Vishwadevas. Dharma married to Sadhya gave birth to Sadhyas Ardhasiddhi. Dharma married to Maruvati gave birth to Marutvat and Jayanta or Upendra. Dharma married to Muhurta gave birth to the Muhurta gods. Dharma married to Sankalpa gave birth to Sankalpa and Kama. Dharma married to Vasu gave birth to Drona, Prana, Dhruva, Arka, Agni, Dosha, Vastu, Vibhavasu. Now Drona married Anumati gave birth to Harsha and Shoka. Prana married Urjaswati gave birth to Saha, Ayush, Purojava. Dhruva married to Dharani gave birth to the different localities Pura. Arka married to Vasana gave birth to Tarsha. Agni married to Dhara gave birth to Skanda and in turn Vishakhu, and also gave birth to Dravinaka. Dosha married to Sarvari gave birth to Shishumara. Vastu married to Angirasi gave birth to Vishwakarma, and in turn Vishwakarma gave birth to Chakshushmanu, Vishwadevas, Sadhyas. Vibhavasu married to Usha gave birth to Vishta, Rochisha, Atapa. Atapa gave birth to Panchayama. Bhuta married Swarupa and gave birth to Raivata, Aja, Bhava, Bhima, Bama, Ugra, Vrishakapi, Ajaypada, Bahurupa, Mahanand, millions of such Rudras. Bhuta married another wife and gave birth to Pretas. Angirasa married to Swadha, gave birth to Pitris. Angirasa married to Sati, gave birth to Aharvangiras. Krisaswa married to Archi, gave rise to Dhumaketu. Krisaswa married to Dhishana, Bedasiras, Devala, Vayuna, Manu. Tarksha married Vinata, gave rise to Garuda and Aruna. Married to Kadru, gave rise to serpents. Tarksha married Patangi and gave rise to flying birds. Tarksha married Yamini and gave birth to Salabha, moths and locusts. Chandra or moon married 21 to 47 Kritika, stars in the lunar path on the ecliptic. Kashyapa married to Timi, gave rise to aquatic animals. Kashyapa married Sarama, gave rise to quadrupeds. Kashyapa married Suravi, gave rise to cloven-footed animals. Kashyapa married Tamra, gave rise to Sena, Gridhara. Kashyapa married Muni and gave rise to Apsarasas. Kashyapa married Krodhivasa, gave rise to Dvandashuka. Kashyapa married to Ila, gave rise to Udvid. Kashyapa married to Surama, gave rise to Rakshasas. Married to Arishta, gave rise to Gandharvas. Married to Kashta, gave rise to animals other than cloven-footed. Married to Dhanu and gave rise to Dvimurda, Samvara, Arishta, Haigriva, Bibhavasu, Ayomukha, Sankusiras, Swarbhanu. Swarbhanu gave rise to Suprabha. And Kashyapa with Dhanu also gave rise to Kapila, Puloman, Vrishaparva, Ekachakra, Anutapana, Dhumra Kesha, Virupaksha, Viprachitti and Durjaya. Viprachitti married Sinhaka and gave rise to Rahu and 100 Ketus. Kashyapa married Aditi and gave rise to Vishwaswat. Vishwaswat married Sanjna, gave rise to Shraddha Deva Manu, the present Vaivasvata Manu. Also gave rise to Yama, Yamuna, Ashwini Kumaras. Vishwaswat married to Sanjna gave rise to all these Yama, Yamuna, Ashwini Kumaras. When married to Chaya, gave rise to Saneschara, Savarni, Tapati. Tapati married to Samvarna. Vishwaswat married to Aryaman. Another son of Aditi was Aryaman, married to Matrika, gave rise to Charshanis. Aditi and Kashyapa gave rise to Pushan, Twastri. Another Twastri, Bhaga, Dhatri, Vidhatri, Varuna, Mitra. Vishnu, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Maruts. Aryaman married Matrika, gave rise to Charshanis. Pushan, Twastri married Rachna, Vishwarupa gave rise to Vishwarupa. Twastri married Prishni, gave rise to Savitri. Vyahriti, Trayi, Agnihotra. Prasuyaga, Somayaga, Chaturmasya, Panchamahayajna. Bhaga married Siddhi and gave rise to Mahiman, Bibhu, Prabhu, Ashis. Dhatri married to Kuhu, gave rise to Sayam. Sayam married to Sinivati, gave rise to Darsa. Dhatri married to Raka, gave rise to Pratar. Dhatri married to Anumati, gave rise to Purnamasa. Then Vidhatri married to Kriya, gave rise to Purishya. Varuna married to Charshani, gave rise to Bhrigu and Valmila. Varuna married to Urvashi, gave rise to Agastya and Vasishta. Varuna married to Mitra. No. Another child of Kashyapa was Mitra, married to Revati, gave rise to Utsarga, Arishta and Pippala. Vishnu married to Kirti, gave rise to Vrihat Slokak and Saubhagya. Hiranyakashipu married to Kayadhu, gave rise to Samhrada, Anuhrada, Hlada, Prahlada. Samhrada married to Mati and gave rise to Panchajana. Anuradha married to Surya, gave rise to Vaskala, Mahisha. Hlada married to Dhamani, gave rise to Vatapi and Ilvala. Prahlada married to Drarbi, gave rise to Virochana, Bali. Bali married to Asana, gave rise to Vana and 100 sons. General remarks on the tables. These tables must not be mistaken for human genealogies. The reader will have to carry himself in imagination to a time when there was a vast sheet of nebulous mass, when the globes and planets had not been formed, and the phenomena now known as day, night, year, month, and season were still unknown. The process known as Pralaya had absorbed the life energies of Triloki, which remained latent in that intermediate plane between the higher and the lower lokas known as Maharloka. When the creative process set in and the ground was prepared for the manifestation of life, life energy streamed forth from the Maharloka, more as types than as individuals. These types are called Prajapatis or the lords of life kingdoms. They carry back to Triloki all the life energies of the previous Kalpa. At Pralaya, they draw back unto themselves all the life energies of the dying Triloki and take a lasting sleep in the archetypal plane to which they properly belong. The Prajapatis of the first Manvantara become the Rishis of other Manvantaras. As the first lords of creation bring back the life energies as well as the lost experiences of the previous Kalpa, so the Rishis bring back the lost knowledge of each Manvantara. This is fully explained in the 14th chapter of the 8th Skanda. The Kumars are not Prajapatis as they come from a plane higher than Maharloka. In the first Manvantara, Marichi, Atri, Angirasa, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrigu, Vasishta, Daksha and Narada are mentioned as the chief Prajapatis. Of these, Narada is not strictly speaking a Prajapati or Lord of creation, as he took no part in the work of creation, though he is called so, having proceeded from Maharloka. Kardama, Ruchi and Vishwakarma are some of the other Prajapatis. Of the Prajapatis, 7 form distinct types by themselves. They preside over the 7 stars, which form the constellation of Great Bear. They send forth their energies from the plane of the 7 sages and guide the course of life evolution that takes place in Triloki. The sages are relieved every Manvantara by others who take up their place. The 7 sages of our Manvantara are different from the Prajapatis of the first Manvantara. It is by great sacrifices and by great efforts that the highest rishis of a Manvantara attain the position of the 7 sages. The sages may become Prajapatis and the Prajapatis may become Kumaras, and men may become sages if they follow the true path. The grades that divide men from sages or rishis proper are many and human evolution proceeds on the line of those grades. Energies of another kind proceeded from Maharloka, energies known as Devas and Asuras. They work out, or rather they are intimately connected with the tendency of life evolution. There is a tendency in the spiritual jiva to acquire experience of the lower planes through senses which they develop. The asuras are connected with this tendency. There is the opposite tendency in the jiva to get rid of the material taint and the material restriction earned in the efforts to acquire manifold experiences and to gain back the original state of purity after the acquisition of fresh spiritual treasures, though the experiences of matter. The devas are connected with this tendency. These are the forms of life which then come into existence and work out their evolution in this Triloki. Life evolution proceeds on two different lines, that of globes and that of individuals. They are represented by the two sons of Manu, Priyavrata and Uttanapada. In the line of Priyavrata, we find how the globes were formed in the solar system through various cosmic fires originating from Vishwakarma, how this earth was formed, its continents and countries. The different divisions of the Bhurloka are presided over by different forms of intelligence who are the sons of Priyavrata. In the line of Uttanapada, we find the different life kingdoms passing through different stages of evolution. First of all, we find a limit is put to life existence in Triloki by Dhruva. Dhruva, son of Uttanapada, presides over the polar star. That star forms the farthest limit of Triloki. Matter is so attenuated there that it can last for one kalpa. We are speaking of a period when infant souls merged out to commence the race of life in the present kalpa. They were spiritual and highly spiritual too, but they were carried away by the general current of creative tendencies. They were to limit themselves by sheath after sheath so that they might acquire the experiences of Swarloka, of Bhuvarloka and Bhurloka in succession. Dhruva, the infant soul, a child only 5 years old, however, resisted the common temptation. He would not go down, for he had an important service to render to the universe. Who would advise him in this noble mission but Narada? Narada was out of element when the creative process was in full swing, and it was a necessity of life evolution. But there were instances of exception, instances of noble souls who would not go in with the general current but would like to remain fixed in spiritual life, and Narada was always to be found helping them with his advice. Dhruva remained fixed in his early spirituality. That was a sacrifice, for he could not enrich himself with further spiritual experiences through the senses of the lower planes of life. But he had to keep up an abode which was to be resorted to by evolved souls in later days, souls that in due course would reach that high spiritual plane. From that kalpic plane and the dweller thereof, we come to lower planes and their dwellers, to the divisions of the time that rule the lives of individuals and of lives adapted to these divisions of time. We come from the elementals of the Swarga plane or the Devas to the elementals of the astral or Bhuvar plane, the Pitris, Bhutas, Pretas and Pisachas, till we reach the mineral kingdom represented by Himalaya, the mountain king. At this point, a turning point was reached in life evolution, and the goddess of life evolution became the daughter of the mountain king. Of this we shall know more hereafter. We know of Daksha first as the son of Brahma, the creator Prajapati, when the life process rapidly worked itself out in elemental forms. Then there was no sexual procreation. Creation meant the materialization of the jiva. Sati, the daughter of Daksha, was the guiding energy of life evolution. She became wedded to Siva, the lord of Bhutas, Pretas and Pisachas, who by the infusion of their tamasic energies could bring down jivas from their high spiritual plane. When the process of materialization was over, when the jivas or monads reached the lowest limits of materiality, the mission of Daksha came to an end. Life evolution had now to pass through mineral, vegetable and animal stages until at last the human stage was reached. Sati now appeared as the daughter of the mineral king Himalaya. She gave the upward bent to life evolution, and by the energy she imparted, minerals were able to shake off the rigidity and stability of gross matter to develop the sense of touch and to become vegetable at last. In like manner, vegetable became animal and animals at last became men. Shiva, the husband of Bhagavati or Durga, as Sati was now called, is the Purusha of dissolution. Bhagavati is his energy, who guides the monadic or jiva evolution of the kalpa. It is the wear and tear, the process of destruction that counteracts the cohesive strength of the particles forming mineral matter, which by its action becomes flexible and so receptive of outside influences. Cells by division and death become capable of life process in themselves. Vegetables grow by the rejection of cells, which necessitates a number of physiological processes. Death brings on life waste repair. If animals exist in one and the same body, progress will be limited, further evolution will be impossible. It is by death that we evolve. Bhagavati works out the evolution of life in different kingdoms till the stage of humanity is reached. At this point, Aryaman, one of the Adityas, comes to help of humanity. Through his influence, the sons of humanity become endowed with the power of reasoning, the faculty of discrimination. The sons of Aryaman are called Kharshanis. The word Kharshani literally means a cultivator. Its secondary sense given in the Vedic lexicon is one endowed with a discriminative faculty. The word Charsani is used in the Vedas for men. It is the equivalent of Arya or Aryan, the ploughman. But it is not as ploughmen or cultivators that the Aryans had their high place in humanity, but as men endowed with the power of discrimination. And this we owe to Aryaman. This is why, though an Aditya, he called the chief of Pitris by Sri Krishna. I am Aryaman of the Pitris, Bhagavad Gita. We have thus the first stage in life evolution, when the spiritual jiva mental to the mineral form. Next, we have the second stage, when minerals passed through higher forms of life till the human kingdom was reached. Then we have the third stage, when men became endowed with the power of discrimination. In the exercise of the discriminative faculty, men were helped by their elder brothers, the rishis and mahatmas of every period, and by avatars who appeared from time to time. Then the ground was prepared for further evolution. The sacred injunctions or the Vedas were revealed to men to give them a sense of right and wrong, of duties and prohibitions. The Vedas also held out to the developed sense of men and the charming prospect of life in Svargaloka with its lasting and alluring enjoyments. This may be called the stage of Karmakanda. In following the stages of human evolution, we have come down to Vaivasvatu Manvantara, side by side with the efforts made to raise humanity in the scale of evolution. Sin was accumulating in the great Atlantean continent, which spread over the whole of what we now know as the Bay of Bengal. The Atlanteans had acquired a mastery over the five forces of nature, which they used for selfish objects and against the cause and current of evolution. Then there was a great revolution in nature. The great Atlantean continent went down with its load of sins. The sons of Sagar, the Atlantean king, became buried under the great ocean, which overtook the doomed continent, and to this day the sea is called in India Sagar or relating to Sagar. There was a corresponding upheaval in the Himalayas, and the sacred river Ganga streamed forth from their sides, inaugurating the spiritual regeneration of the universe. Much of what we now know as India must have been raised up at that time, and on its sacred soil appeared the great Avatara Rama, who put an end to the disorganizing, chaos-loving sons of Lanka. The people of Lanka were called Rakshasas as they were working towards the destruction of all order, all progress in the universe, and rendered everything topsy-turvy in nature. Now it was time for Sri Krishna to appear, the greatest of all avatars in our Kalpa, who gave the last bent to the progress of humanity. He wedded himself with all the principles that enter into the constitution of man, so that man may come up to him. He taught the basic unity of all beings and laid down the path of service and devotion. He established the reign of spiritual life, and ever since his lotus feet sacrificed the soil of India, The scriptures only reiterate his teachings, and they all sing his glory forever and ever. We shall find in its true place the service done by Lord Krishna, and how by his avatarship humanity has made one or more advance in the scale of human evolution. When the Lord appeared, Bhagavati made her appearance too as the daughter of Nanda. It is with her energy that Sri Krishna performed the mission of his avatarship. This is the bare outline of what the tables teach us. We shall consider them each in its own place. We shall find a detailed account to how the universe is preserved. We shall hear of great rishis, of many avatars, of the part played by devas and asuras. We shall see how the monads pass through different stages of evolution till the idea of perfect humanity is presented by Lord Krishna. The tables sometimes speak of life kingdoms, sometimes of human races, sometimes of types and principles, and sometimes of individuals. Sometimes the names used convey a good deal of hidden meaning, sometimes they are used at random. In the line of Priyaprata, we find how globes are formed, how continents and countries appear. The solidification of earth is indicated by the muteness of Bharata. Bharatavarsha or India is called the firstborn of all countries, and the other lands are enjoined to follow and to obey their eldest brother. The genealogies described until now are mentioned and described further in the following way. The names of the first table have been considered before, Skanda 4 and chapter 1. Ruchi and Akuti both mean wish, desire. Yajna is sacrifice. Dakshina means ordinarily the present made to a Brahmana for officiating at a ceremony. It is also the present made for the performance of a Vedic sacrifice. No Vedic sacrifice is complete without the present of Dakshina to the officiating priest. Dakshina was married to Yajna, for they are inseparable. Possibly Yajna has reference to the elemental or Devic character of life forms in the first Manvantara. That also explains why there was no Indra separate from the avatar of Manvantara. The first Manvantara was one of pravriti or descent. Spirit could descend into matters only with the help of desire. Desire is a father of karma. Karma is the characteristic of Vedic Yajna. Yajna therefore guided the first Manvantara. He was the avatar of Vishnu as well as the Indra of the Devas. The sons of Yajna were the Devas of the first Manvantara. The Bhagavatha calls them Sushita or bliss gods. The Vishnu Purana calls them Yama Devas. The Manvantara Devas have for their mission the carrying out of the cyclic work of the Manvantara. Marichi means literally a ray of light. The word is frequently applied to the sun's ray. As the sun's ray breaks up into all the component colors, so the line of Marichi broke up into the life kingdoms. Kala means the digit of the moon. Kashyapa was the son of Marichi and Kala. He married the 13 daughters of Daksha in the line Uttanapada. By his wives, Kashyapa was the father of Suras and Asuras, of elementals, vegetables, animals and men. He is directly connected with the monads. Marichi and Kala have a special significance in reference to Jivic evolution. Does the pair symbolize the sun's ray reflected on the moon or the Atmic ray reflected on Buddhi? Anyhow, Marichi and Kala imply the divine ray in the Jivas or Atma Buddhi. The monads of individuals are limited by the shells or bodies of Kashyapa's line. The word Kashyapa means primarily bed seat. They come through Purnima, daughter of Marichi, the sons of Purnima or Viraja and Vishwaga. Viraja is free from Rajas. Vishwaga means one who goes all over the universe. Viraja and Vishwaga are universal aspects of Jivic intelligence. Viraja is the father of Vairajas. Devakulya is the daughter of Purnima. She flowed from the washings of the feet of Vishnu, the divine river Ganga. Atri equal to A, which is not, plus tri, not 3, but 3 in 1. Anasuya equal to not plus Asuya, which means envy, intolerance, jealousy. So she is without envy, intolerance and jealousy. Tapas for 100 years for a son like unto the Lord of the universe. The ascetic fire at last broke forth from his head, and instantly Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva appeared before him. Lords, said Atri, I had only one of you in my mind, but you have all three come to me. The Trinity replied, we are three in one. You shall have three sons, one each of us. Anusuya begot Soma or the moon after Brahma, Datta or Dattatreya after Vishnu, and Durvasa after Shiva. The moon is thus a sort of Brahma or creator to the present Kalpa. Atri represents the creative, the preservative, and the destructive intelligence in the individual, all united to carry out the complex process of evolution. The Brihadaranyaka certainly refers to one of his aspects in the following passage. Speech is Atri, for by speech food is consumed. For Atri is verily derived from the root Ati, to eat or consume. He is the consumer of all. Where is he who thus established us? He is within the mouth, hence is Ayasya. He is Angirasa because he is the essence of the members. Brihadaranyaka I 3.8. Commenting on this passage, Shankaracharya says, life is also called Angirasa, the essence of causes and effects, substance. The whole meaning, therefore, is the substance upon which causes and effect, because unless it were present, all would become without effect. He who abides in the mouth is Angirasa, for he is the essence of the members, Anga. Life is the essence of the members. This is also Brihaspati. Speech is Brihati. Life is the preserver of Brihati, therefore it is Brihaspati. Brihaspati, or the presiding deity of the planet Jupiter, is called Angirasa, that is the son of Angiras. The wife of Angiras is, according to the Bhagavatham, Shraddha or faith, and according to Vishnu Purana, Smriti or memory. The latter is a more suggestive name. Brihaspati or Jupiter is the essence of all beings and of the universe, and is connected with the memory of the past. Angirasa is the rishi of the fifth mandala of the Rig Veda. The mantras of that mandala are composed in the Brihati or big meter. This accounts for the name Brihaspati. Brihaspati or Jupiter, as a guide of the Devas, has to play a most important part in bringing about the life evolution of the present Kalpa according to the records of the past and the essence or rasa of all beings. The Aranyaka therefore calls him life itself. Utatya, another son of Angiras, is U-Tatya. U is an interjection used as an expletive. Tatya means reality, truth. Utatya is said to be an incarnation of Vishnu. Both the brothers are said to have distinguished themselves in the second Manvantara. Sinivali is the day preceding that of a new moon, with a scarcely visible crescent. Kuha is new moon day when the moon is altogether invisible. Raka is the full moon day. Anumati is the 15th day of the moon's age, on which she rises one digit less than full. The full moon and new moon days have thus a mysterious connection with the essence of all beings. On those days, the herbs have their medicinal properties in full, and even men have mysterious potencies which have formed the subject of occult study. Pulastya is equal to Pula plus Stya. Pula is large, wide. It also means a thrill of joy or fear. Stya is he who collects. He is connected with remains in. Agastya equal to Aga plus Stya. Aga is mountain, unable to walk, fixed. According to a Puranic legend, the Vindhya mountain began to rise higher and higher so as to obstruct the path of the sun and moon. The gods, being alarmed, sought the aid of Agastya, who was the teacher of Vindhya. The rishi approached the mountain and asked it to passage to the south and to retain the same position till his return. Vindhya obeyed the order of his teacher, but Agastya never returned from the south, and Vindhya never attained the height of Meru. According to Bhagavatha, Agastya is the digestive fire of the stomach. Visravas. V means signifying intensity. Sravas means ears. Kubera is literally deformed. He is the god of riches and regent of the north. He is the king of the Yakshas and Kinnaras and a friend of Rudra. His abode is Kailasha. He is represented as having 3 legs, only 8 teeth, and a yellow mark in place of 1 eye. Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana are Rakshasas made famous by the Ramayana. Ravana is one who makes a loud noise. The Rakshasas reached the height of their power in his time. The Yakshas before his time had occupied Lanka or Atlantis under Kubera. But Ravana propitiated Shiva by his loud hymns and acquired easy mastery over his kindred elementals. He ousted the Yakshas from Lanka and made it his own capital. Ravana also controlled the higher devas of Triloki. Kumbhakarna is otherwise called Kumbha or pitcher plus Karna or ear. This pitcher-eared brother of Ravana is said to have devoured thousands of beings including sages and heavenly nymphs. He slept for 6 months at a time. He was ultimately slain by Rama. Vibhishana, meaning the terrible, left his brother Ravana and joined Rama. After the death of Ravana, Rama installed him on the throne of Lanka. He is said to be still living. The Rakshasas are said to have possessed Kamarupa, that is, they could assume any body at will. In the line of Pulastya, we have the strange combination, the digestive fire of stomach, ears, yakshas, and lastly the Rakshasas, who could change their body at will. Altogether, we may say Pulastya is intelligence which governs animal passions and kama. Pulaha is equal to Pula plus Ha. Ha is one who gives up. Gati is motion. Karmasreshta is one most skilled in karma or work. Varyas is excellent, preferable. Sahishnu is patient, enduring. Pulaha seems to be the higher aspect of kama, the impulses pure and simple apart from their karmic generator, or perhaps Pulaha may represent pranic activity. Kratu is a Vedic sacrifice, intelligence, power, ability. Kriya is action. Balakilyas are a class of rishis, 60,000 in number, of the size of the thumb, and are said to precede the sun's chariot. The word literally implies stunted in growth like infants. These rishis are said to burn brightly with the spiritual fire of asceticism. The number 60,000 is significant. It indicates a correspondence. Perhaps the rishis themselves represent the sense perceptions which are guided by the Adhidevas who have their abode in the heart of the sun. The Balakilya rishis are therefore said to accompany the sun's chariot. Their connection with Vedic sacrifices is also intelligible as they are generally directed to the Adhidevas. Vasishta is a controller. He is the spiritual teacher of the solar race and represents spiritual intelligence or higher manas. He is the controller of the senses and the lower mind. Urja is energy. She is also called Arundhati. Adharvan, the Veda called by that name. The Adhichi, the name of a rishi who accepted death in order to serve the Devas. Vishwakarman forged the thunderbolt with his bones, and Indra defeated Vritra, the Asura king, with that weapon. The line of Adharvan represents self-sacrifice for universal good as well as magic or occult wisdom. Bhrigu, the dweller of Maharloka or the archetypal plane, upon the pralaya of Triloki, the essence of that triple plane and its karma become embedded in Maharloka. The creative process sets in again in strict conformity to the karma of the past. Bhrigu is therefore father of Dhata or universal karma, Vidhata or individual karma, and Sri or Lakshmi, the wife of Vishnu, the energy of preservation. Ayati or potency is the wife of Dhata. Brikandu and Markandeya are in this line. Niyati or fate is the wife of Vidhata. Prana and Vedasiras are in this line. Kavi is another son of Bhrigu, and Usanas or Shukra is Kavi's son. But according to some authorities, Kavi is the same as Usanas. It is a matter for reflection how Shukra or the presiding rishi of the planet Venus is connected with Maharloka or the transpersonal plane. Maharloka is the first approach to universality and therefore may correspond to higher manas. However, that be, Venus corresponds to the first plane of universality. The consideration of tables in C to K has proved to be an interesting one. But readers are requested to remember that there is a mere study by an inquiring student and they are left to think for themselves. I might have dwelt at some length on this portion of the subject, but that would be going beyond the scope of the present work. Briefly speaking then, Marichi is monadic ray or Atma-buddhi. Atri is the adjustment of the creative, preservative and destructive tendencies in a jiva. Angiras is the essence of creation, the auric repository of the jiva. Pulastya is karmic intelligence. Pulaha is higher karmic intelligence, or it may be pranic also. Kratu is lower manasic intelligence. Vasishta is higher manasic intelligence. Daksha is the able. Prasuti is the mother, the procreative energy. During the first Manvantara, Daksha had nothing to do with sexual procreation. He was the father of 16 primal energies. These energies were wedded to Dharma, Agni, the Pitris, and Siva, 13 to Dharma and 1 to each of the others. Dharma is that which binds the creation. Man and man, man and animal, animal and animal, all forms of creation are kept together by Dharma. The binding forces of creation are the wives of Dharma. Shraddha or faith is the first wife of Dharma. Her son is Satya or truth. Maitri or friendliness is the second wife. Her son is Prasada or complacence. Daya or compassion is the third wife. Her son is Abhaya or freedom from fear. Shanti or peace is the fourth wife. Her son is Sema or tranquility. The fifth wife is Tushti or contentment. Her son is Harsha or joy. The sixth wife is Pushti or fullness. Her son is Garva or pride. The seventh wife is Kriya. Her son is Yoga. The eighth wife is Unnati or advancement. Her son is Darpa or vanity. The ninth wife is Buddhi. Her son is Ardha. The 10th wife is Medha or intellect. Her son is Smriti or memory. The 11th wife is Titiksha or forbearance. Her son is Kshema or well-being. The 12th wife is Lajja or shame. Her son is Vinaya or modesty. The 13th and last wife of Dharma is Murti or form. Her sons are Nara and Narayana, that is humanity and divinity. The human form constitute a duality. It is in this dual form that Sri Krishna incarnated himself. From Dharma we pass to Agni. Agni is used in many senses. It means the channel of communication between different kingdoms in nature, especially between man and Deva, as also a vehicle of consciousness and sometimes consciousness itself. It also means the Rupa or form-giving principle in the universe. It is frequently used in the Puranas in the last sense. Agni was wedded to Swaha, the 14th daughter of Daksha. His three sons are Pavaka or the purifier, Pavaman or that which is being purified, and Sachi or pure. They have 45 sons who with their fathers and grandfather form the 49 fires. They are separately mentioned in the Vedic sacrifices in honor of Agni. Swadha is the 15th daughter of Daksha. She was married to the Pitris. Agnishwatva, Barhishad, Somapa and Agyapa are the names of the Pitris. They are with fire or without fire. With fire means Agni, or without fire Niragni. Swadha bore two daughters to the Pitris, Vayuna and Dharini. Both of them were well versed in the supreme wisdom. Vayana is knowledge, wisdom, faculty of perception. Dharini means that which bears, holds, carries, supports. Sometimes the word is used to mean the earth. This twofold classification means that some of the Pitris give the body, which is the receptacle or carrier with its subdivisions, and others give knowledge, wisdom, and the faculties of perception. Sati is the last daughter of Daksha. She was wedded to Shiva. We shall specially notice her in the succeeding chapter. The quarrel between Shiva and Daksha. Skanda 4, Chapter 2. Of old, the Prajapatis performed a yagna, and the Devas and Rishis all graced the occasion with their presence. Prajapati Daksha entered the assembly when all stood up to receive him except Brahma and Shiva. Daksha saluted his father Brahma and with his permission took a seat. But he was so mortified by the conduct of Shiva that he could not contain himself and indignantly broke forth thus, O you Rishis, Devas and Agni, witness this disgraceful conduct of Shiva, my own son-in-law, rather my disciple. This senseless being would not do so much as rise up and receive me. He has no sense of respect and disrespect of purity and impurity. He is mindless of all injunctions and observances. Do you know what he does? He roves like a madman in the crematories with his host of bhutas, pretas and pisachas, sometimes laughing, sometimes weeping, his body covered over with the ashes of dead bodies, their bones serving for his ornaments. His name is Shiva, auspicious. It's called auspicious. But he is really Asiva, inauspicious. He is fond of intoxication, and his companions are the impure and senseless bhutas, or that I have given my daughter Sati in marriage to him. That was simply to obey the orders of Brahma. Shiva remained unmoved. Daksha went on abusing him, and at last he cursed Shiva, saying, This vilest of devas shall not participate in the sacrificial offerings to Indra, Upendra, and others. He then left the place in a rage. Nandishwara, the chief companion of Shiva, could not bear the gross and wanton insult done to his master. He retorted in angry tones the unkind words of Daksha and the approbation of some of the counsellors. Shiva bears malice to none. It is Daksha who makes differences where there are none. Ignorant people follow him and blame Shiva. The Vedas deal with transitory objects. Worldly attachments receive an impetus from the karmakanda of the Vedas, and they beget vices and evil deeds. This Daksha looks upon the body as a soul. He shall be as fond of women as a beast, and his face shall he that of an aja, or a goat. Verily he deserves this, as he looks upon avidya as tattva-vidya. He publicly insults Shiva. The Brahmanas who follow him shall go through the repeated course of births and deaths, and shall resort to the apparently pleasing karmakanda of the Vedas. These Brahmanas shall have no scruples to eat anything, and they shall make a profession of their learning, their tapas and their austerities. They shall consider their riches, their body and their indriyas to be all in all. They shall beg about from door to door. Bhrigu, the leader of Brahmanas, thus returned the curses of Nandi on the followers of Shiva. Those that will follow Shiva shall be disregardful of the Sat, or real Shastras, and shall be irreligious, with braids of hair on their head and ashes and bones round their body. They shall frequent places where wine is indulged in. The Vedas have at all times laid down the approved path. The rishis of old followed their injunction. Narayana is at their very root. Those that forget all this shall only attain the tamasic Shiva, the lord of bhutas and pisachas. Shiva with his followers then left the place. The Prajapatis performed the yajna for 1,000 years. Some time after, Brahma made Daksha the head of the Prajapatis, and his pride knew no bounds. He commenced a sacrifice called Vrihaspati Yajna, and to it he invited all except Shiva and his own daughter Sati. Sati heard of the grand preparations made by her father and became impatient to witness the yajna herself. Shiva at last yielded to her expostulations, much against his own will. She left for Daksha's house, accompanied by the attendants of Shiva. At last she reached her father's house and went to the place of sacrifice, but her father would not receive her. She did not find any offering to Shiva. She could easily make out that Daksha had disregarded her husband. No attention was also paid to her. She grew furious with rage and addressing her father said, "With Shiva all are equal. He has enmity with none. Who else but thee could be envious of his virtues? Thou hast attributed evil things to Shiva. But do not the devas know all that and knowingly worship him? If the devoted wife cannot kill her husband's calumniators, she must leave the place with ears closed with her hands. But if she is strong enough, she must in the first place sever the tongue of the calumniator from his body by force and then put an end to herself. Thou art the calumniator of Shiva. This my body is from thee, so I shall not keep it any longer. If prohibited food is taken, the best thing is to throw it out. True, there are the two paths of inclination, pravritti, and of renunciation, nivritti. But one cannot adopt both the paths at one and the same time. What action is there for Shiva? He is Brahma himself. Thou speakest of his ashes and bones, but hast thou any idea of his yogic powers, in comparison with which thy powers as a performer of Vedic sacrifices are nothing? But there is no use wrangling with thee. I am ashamed of this body which has connection with thee. The sooner I get rid of it, the better. So saying, Sati gave up her body, and there was great uproar. Her attendants made ready for an attack, when Bhrigu, who acted as Adhvaryu, invoked the Ribhus. They appeared and bet the attendants of Shiva, who ran away on all sides. Narada informed Shiva of what had happened. Shiva bit his lips in anger and tore up a jata from his head. The jata glowed with electric fire. He threw it down on the earth, and the terrible Veerabhadra sprang from it. His tall body reached the high heavens. He was dark as the clouds. He had 1,000 hands, 3 eyes burning like the sun, teeth terrible to look at, and tufts of hair bright as fire. He had a garland of human skulls round his neck, and there were various weapons in his hands. What are thy behests, O Lord? Exclaimed Virabhadra. Thou art clever in fight, child, thou hast nothing to fear from the Brahmanas, for verily thou art part of myself. Go forth at the head of my army. Put an end to Daksha and his yagna. Such was the command of Shiva. Virabhadra rushed forth with trident in hand, and the attendants of Shiva followed him with enthusiasm and noise. The priests, the Brahmanas, and their wives present at Daksha's sacrifice saw a huge dust storm, as it were, coming from the north. Can it be the hurricane? Thought they, but the wind is not strong. Can this be the march of robbers? But King Prachina Barhi is still alive. In his reign there is no fear from robbers. No one is driving cattle. What can be the cause of this approaching volume of dust? The attendants of Shiva arrived in no time. Some of them were brown colored, some yellow, some had their belly, some their face like Makara. They broke their implements of sacrifice and scattered them around. They pulled down the buildings and put out the fires. They made all sorts of sacrilege, ran after the rishis and devas, and frightened the women. Maniman caught hold of Bhrigu and tied him up. Virabhadra captured Daksha, Chandesha captured Surya, and Nandishwara captured Bhaga. Seeing this, the other Brahmanas and Devas took to flight, but they were grievously hurt by the stones cast at them by the followers of Shiva. Virabhadra began to uproot the beard of Bhrigu, for while scoffing Shiva, he made his beard prominent. Nandishwara pulled out the 2 eyeballs of Bhaga, for he had encouraged Daksha by side glances. Virabhadra did not also spare Pushan and pulled out all his teeth. Pushan had showed his teeth while smiling in approval of Daksha's abuse. But the crowning act of Virabhadra was still to come. He sprang upon Daksha and made several attempts to cut off his head. But the head resisted all his strokes. Wonderstruck, he took at last the weapons of sacrifice and easily severed the head of Daksha, even as it were the head of a beast of sacrifice. Loud were the lamentations at the place of sacrifice when Virabhadra with his followers left it for Kailasha. The Devas, after his signal defeat, went to Brahma. Brahma and Vishnu knew what was to happen at Daksha's sacrifice, so they had kept themselves aloof. When the Devas had related their mishap, Brahma explained to them that they had done wrong in not allowing Shiva to participate in the yagna offering. There was no help now but to appease the astral lord, who could destroy the universe at his will. So saying, Brahma himself went with the Devas to Kailasa, the abode of Shiva. He found there higher beings than men perfected by birth, herbs, tapas, mantra or yoga, and yakshas, kinnaras, gandharvas and apsaras. The river Nanda traced its course round Kailasha. High up on the mount was the abode called Alaka and garden called Saugandhika. On 2 sides of Alaka were the 2 rivers Nanda and Alakananda, sanctified by the dust of Vishnu's feet. Alaka is the abode of Kubera, the Yaksha king. The Kinnaras occupied the Saugandhika garden. Near it was a large fig tree, Vata, 800 miles, 100 yojanas high, the branches spreading over 600 miles. Below that tree, the Devas found Shiva in deep meditation for the good of the universe. Brahma asked him to pardon Daksha and his followers who had slighted him by withholding yagna offerings. Through thy favor, let the yagna be completed now. Let Daksha get back his life. Let the eyes of Bhagadeva, the head of Bhrigu, the teeth of Pushan be restored. Let the Devas and the sacrificial rishis be relieved of all pain in their broken limbs. Since now the remnants of yagna offerings are all thine, take thy offerings and let the sacrifice be completed this day. Shiva replied with a smile thus, Daksha is a mere child. I do not even think of him as an offender, but I have to set right those that are led astray by Maya. Daksha's head is burnt up, so let him have the head of a goat. Bhagadeva shall find his yagna offerings through the eyes of Mitra. Pushan shall have pishta, crushed or ground up things for his offerings. In company with other devas, however, he shall have the use of the sacrificer's teeth. Let the broken limbs of the Devas be rehabilitated, but those that have lost their limbs shall use the arms of Ashwini Kumara and the hands of Pushan. So let it be the Rishis too. Bhrigu shall have the beard of a goat. The Devas thanked Shiva for his great kindness and invited him to the sacrifice. Brahma accompanied Shiva. Daksha regained life and looked on Shiva with reverence. He acquired wisdom and became purified in mind. The sacrifice was duly performed. Daksha sat in meditation, and lo, Vishnu appeared on the back of Garuda. All rose up and saluted him. Spontaneous prayers broke forth from one and all. Vishnu participated in the yagna offerings. Addressing Daksha, he said, "Only ignorant people see the difference between me and Shiva. I, Shiva and Brahma are three in one. For the creation, preservation and dissolution of the universe, we assume three different names. We as the triune Atma pervade all beings. Wise men therefore look upon all others as their own selves." Such is the story of Sati's death. She took birth again as the daughter of Himalaya and became wedded once more. The union with Shiva this time was permanent. Thoughts on the above description. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are the three aspects of the second Purusha. Brahma brings into manifestation the Prajapatis, and the Prajapatis bring into manifestation the individuals and life forms. The other Prajapatis mostly represent the principles that enter into the constitution of life forms, while Daksha represents the combination of principles forming a life unit. Daksha had 16 daughters. 13 he gave in marriage to Dharma, 1 to Agni, 1 to the Pitris and 1 to Shiva. Agni, or the god of fire, is the rupa or form giving deva. Fire is used in sacrifice because it changes the form of things offered and makes them acceptable to the gods by change of form. If Agni represents Rupa Devas or Devas with forms, Dharma might represent Arupa Devas or Devas without forms. The Pitris, of whom 4 classes are only mentioned, Agnishvatvas, Barshihads, Saumyas and Ajyapas, are also divided into 2 classes, one with fire and one without fire. The attendants of Shiva were dwellers of the astral or Bhuvar plane. For the sake of convenient reference, we shall call the dwellers of Swargaloka Devas and the dwellers of Bhuvarloka astrals. The different classes of Devas and astrals are described in the 20th chapter of the 4th Skanda. The Devas and astrals were brought into manifestation by Daksha, whose position in creation was next to that of Brahma. Therefore, all stood up to receive him at the sacrifice except Brahma. Shiva first appeared as Kumara Neela Lohita or Rudra, and all beings thereafter got the potentiality of dissolution, phenomenal change, death and decay. But in the first stage of life process, phenomenal change, decay or dissolution was not in requisition, as monads went on in their downward journey not by dissolution but by evolution. They remained what they were, and they acquired in addition a more material form. As the material form became prominent, the Deva form and the astral form became suppressed. Consciousness in Deva form manifests itself as astral form as animal desire and sense perception. In the mineral form, it can hardly shew itself. Shiva works out the decay and dissolution of mineral forced into the vegetable. The process is carried further in the animal kingdom, and the animals get a constitution in which karma or animal desire can manifest itself. The animals evolve themselves by inaction, and inaction causes death and decay. There is no phenomenal change without dissolution, death or decay. There are so many material tendencies in us that they require rejection. Shiva gives us the power of rejection, as Vishnu the power of preservation of all that is good in us. Death makes the man where moral teachings fail. The consort of Shiva is the energy through whom he guides the life process of monads or jivas. In the first stage of life process, she is called Sati or the lasting. For the body of the jiva was lasting during the period of evolution, but her mission was to act on the monad itself, to cause the material tendency in it by means of tamas. In the second stage, she is the energy of dissolution, death and phenomenal change. In the third stage, she is over and above that the energy of rejection of all that is evil in us. She is the kind mother who has been nourishing all jivas in their course of evolution. When the mineral form was reached by the primal elemental jiva, The creative process had done its work, and the process of dissolution was to assert itself. There was to be a revolution in the life process. Sati gave up her own nature and became reborn in another character in the mineral kingdom. The creative process was materially changed. Daksha lost his original head and he acquired the head of a goat. The goat symbolizes sexual connection. All this happened during the reign of Prachina Barhis. The Pracheta's brothers were his sons. Daksha reappeared as the son of Pracheta's brothers. The Adityas or gods of preservation who formed Daksha were Pushava and Bhaga. They were the preserving deities of the first stage of life process. When the next stage came in, they lost their activity. This explains the breaking of teeth and the uprooting of eyes of two of the Adityas. The subjoined table of correspondence is taken from the 11th chapter of the 12th Skanda, shows that Pushana and Bhaga correspond to the months of Pausha, December, and Magha, January, when the rays of the sun are the least powerful. These Adityas preserve jivas in their downward course. Pushana was a favorite god of the Aryan shepherd. There is not much to detain us in this table. It will be enough if readers will please note the meanings of the names used in the tables above. The next table includes the story of Dhruva, the story of Pirdhu, the story of Prachina Barhis, the allegory of Puranjana, and the story of Prachetasas. The story of Dhruva, Skanda 4, chapter 8 to 12. Uttanapada is one of the sons of the first Manu. Uttanapada means with uplifted foot. This perhaps refers to the period when the jiva, having still the spiritual element. Uttanapada had two wives, Suruchi with good graces and Suniti of good morals. Uttama or the highest was the son of Suruchi. Dhruva or the fixed was the son of Suniti. Once upon a time, Dhruva found Uttama on his father's lap and he wished to be there himself. For fear of Suruchi, Uttanapada did not dare stretch forth his hands towards Dhruva, while Suruchi herself taunted the boy for his impudent aspiration. Stung to the quick by the bitter words of his stepmother, Dhruva forthwith left the place and went straight to his mother and related to her his grievances. Suniti advised her son, who was only 5 years old, to make tapas. Dhruva did not lose time but left home to make tapas as directed by his mother. Narada met him on the way. "Thou art a child, Dhruva," said the great rishi. "How is it possible for thee to find out him by tapas, who is attainable by intense yoga concentration and freedom from passion practiced for several births? Desist, my boy, for the present. Try when thou hast enjoyed all the things of the world and hast grown old." But Dhruva was fixed in resolve, and he importuned Narada to teach him how to meditate. Narada initiated Dhruva into the mysteries of mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, told him how to meditate on Vasudeva, and asked him to make tapas at Madhura, where Bhagavan permanently resides. Dhruva passed his days in austere asceticism, standing on one foot and living on air. The prince at last controlled his breath and with deep concentration saw the divine light in the heart. Bhagavan withdrew that light from the heart, and on the break of Samadhi, Dhruva found the same divinity outside, standing before him. Words he had none for a time. Bhagavan, addressing him, said, "O thou Kshatriya boy, I know thy resolve. Do thou ever prosper. I give thee a place which is ever bright and where nirvana is constant. The planets and stars are all attached to that place. Those that live for a kalpa will die, but that place shall never be destroyed. Dharma, Agni, Kashyapa, Indra, and the 7 rishis, with all the luminaries of the sky, are constantly revolving round this place. Thou shalt succeed thy father on the throne and reign for 36,000 years. Thy brother Uttama shall disappear in the forest. Thy stepmother Suruchi shall die in pursuit of her son. The place where thou shalt finally go is my own abode, higher than that of the rishis, and there is no return from it." Dhruva returned to his parents and was placed by his father on the throne. He married Brahmi, the daughter of Shishumara, and had 2 sons by her, Kalpa and Vatsara. He had another son, Utkala, by Ela. Uttama was killed by a powerful yaksha while out on a hunt. Dhruva went out to the north to take revenge on the Yakshas for his brother's death. He killed several thousands of innocent Yakshas, Rakshasas and Kinnaras in battle. Manu took pity on them and asked his grandson to desist from fight. Dhruva bowed in obedience to Manu, and so Kubera, the king of Yakshas, became much pleased with him and blessed him too. After 36,000 years, Sananda and Nanda, two companions of Vishnu, came with a chariot and took Dhruva to the promised abode. Utkala was the eldest son of Dhruva, and he was entitled to succeed his father, but he was a sage and had united himself with Brahma. He declined the throne. Brahmi's son Vatsara became the king. Vatsara married Subiti and had 6 sons by her: Pushparna, Tigmaketu, Isha, Urja, Vasu and Jaya. Pushparna had 2 wives, Prabha and Dosha. Prabha had 3 sons, Pratar, Madhyandina and Sayam. Dosha had 3 sons, Pradosha, Nisita and Vyushta. Vyushta married Pushkarini. His son was Sarvatejas, afterwards called Chakshus. Chakshus had 1 son, Nadvala Manu. Thoughts on the above description. The line of Uttanapada, as I have said above, represents the appearance of individual life forms. Limitation had to be put to the life periods of individuals. We commence with Dhruva, who presides over the polar star and lives for 1 kalpa. His sons are Kalpa and Vatsara. Vatsara means year. The sons of Vatsara are 6 seasons. Pushparna is a flower season or spring. Tigmaketu means fierce raid. The word Kartika, it is indicative of autumn. Vasu, meaning wealth, is a season between autumn and winter, when paddy becomes ripe. Prabha is light. Dosha is darkness. Pratar, Madhyandina and Sayam are morning, midday and evening respectively. Pradosha is first part of the night. Nishita is midnight. Vyushta is daybreak. Sarvatejas is all fire. He was subsequently called Chakshus or I. The names other than Chakshus indicate different capacities of individual life, ranging from portions of a day to the whole kalpa. When the downward flow of jivas was a rule, Dhruva had to make great sacrifice to remain fixed on the spiritual plane. Hence he worshipped Vishnu as directed by Narada. Sarvatejas or Chakshush perhaps indicates the appearance of perceptive faculties. The son of Chakshus is glorified with the title of Manu. This is significant. He is called Nadvala, or one made of reeds. This marks a new era in the progress of monads. As the reed is made up of sheets overlapping each other, so the sons of this Manu were constituted of overlapping principles. Why Nadvala is called Manu has to be found out in the circumstances that attended the progress of the monads from the mineral to the vegetable stage. The son of this Manu was Anga, or the limbs, and Anga was wedded to the daughter of the death god. So there was no death up to the Nadvala form of life and no limbs. It was something like the appearance of protoplasmic matter with all its potentialities of evolving life forms. Thus we can understand the importance of Nadvala as a Manu. Death or decay made the inorganic to develop organs, or Anga. The story of Prithu, Skanda 4, chapter 13 to 23. Nadvala had 12 sons, one of them being Ulmuka, firebrand torch. He had 6 sons, one of them being Anga, or the members of the body. Anga married Sunita, the daughter of death. The iniquitous Veena was the son of Anga. When he became king, he issued a proclamation prohibiting all worship and sacrifices. The sages strongly remonstrated with him, but when he turned a deaf ear to their words, they killed him with their incantations. The kingdom was now without a ruler, and there was great disorder. The rishis then churned the thigh of the dead body until a dwarf fish, deep black person, came out. The rishis told him to sit down and wait. Hence he was called Nishada. They then churned the 2 arms, and a pair arose. This male is an incarnation of Vishnu, said the rishis, and this female is an incarnation of Lakshmi. They shall marry each other. He shall be called Prithu and his wife Archis. Prithu shall be the king, and he shall preserve all beings. Prithu accepted the duty of preserving the people. He saw there was no vegetation on the earth. His subjects suffered from hunger. He thought that the earth had eaten up the seeds and was not bringing forth the plants. In anger, Prithu took up his bow and aimed at the earth. She assumed the form of a cow and began to run away, chased by the king. But she at last yielded and requested him to spare her life. Thou art Lord of this universe, exclaimed the earth. Thou knowest very well that the forms of vegetable life created by Brahma could not be used in yajna so long. I have therefore preserved them within myself. If I had not done so, they would have been destroyed long ago, and no yajna could be performed in future. True, they are now rotting in me, but think about the best means to bring them out. Find out a calf, a milk pot, and a milker. I will secrete all desired objects as my milk, but first of all make my surface flat and level. Prithu rejoiced at these words. He made Swayambhuva Manu the calf and milked all vegetables into his own hands. Others followed him. The rishis made Brihaspati their calf and drew out the Vedas into their Indriyas. The Devas made Indra their calf and milked out their golden pot, Amrita and energy of body, of mind and of the Indriyas. The Daityas and Danavas made Prahalada their calf and milked out wine into their iron pot. The Gandharvas and Apsaras made Vishwavasu their calf and milked out into their lotus vessel fragrance, beauty and sweet words. The Pitris made Aryaman their calf and extracted into their unburnt earth vessel the Kavya offerings. The Siddhas made Kapila their calf and milked out the Siddhis. And so other instances are given. Prithu was so glad that he called earth his daughter, and hence she is called Prithvi, or the daughter of Prithu. The king also crushed the mountains and made the earth's surface level. Prithu then commenced a series of Ashwamedha Yagnas. During the performance of the 100th, Indra twice stole away the sacrificial horse, but Prithu's son restored it on both the occasions. The performer of 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices became an Indra. This was the cause of Indra's fear. Prithu could not bear the disgraceful conduct of Indra, and he resolved to kill him. The rishis dissuaded him, and even Brahma and Vishnu appeared to soothe the offended king and restore his friendship with Indra. Vishnu explained to Prithu that he had enough to do as a king of the earth and as a preserver of the people, and that he should not aspire to become Indra, who had his duties as well. Sometime after, the Sanat Kumar brothers appeared before the king and taught him the way to Mukti. He made over the kingdom to his son Vijitasva and retired into the forest. At last, he gave up the body and went to Vaikuntha. Thoughts on the above description. We left the monad in its protoplasmic state. The protoplasmic mass began to spread out limbs called Anga. But the development of limbs was not an unmixed blessing, for Anga became wedded to the daughter of death. There was no death in the protoplasm. The offspring of the first connection with death was Veena. The root Vin mean already appeared. Matter had passed through the grossness and immobility of tamas and the irregular, impulsive and purposeless movements of rajas, till it became permeated with sattva, when those movements assumed the regularity of conscious acts. The consciousness of sattva made the future evolution or yagna teem with big possibilities. Earth could no longer keep back the seeds of the vegetable creation in her bosom. Her surface became leveled, and she looked green with vegetation. She brought forth all her latent life energies, and life evolution commenced in right earnest under the guidance of the first king, energized by Vishnu for the preservation of the universe. But that king was not to exceed the proper bounds. He was not to usurp the functions of Indra. The Devas are the executive officers of the rishis in the cyclic administration of the universe, and their work is more on cyclic than on individual lines. The kings, however, as representing Manu, have to deal directly with monads and egos and have to guide them according to the light of the rishis. Prithu was asked by Vishnu to keep himself within the bounds of kingly duties. The story of the Prachina Barhis or Barhishad. Skanda 4, chapter 24. The eldest son of Prithu was Vijitasva. He was so called for having restored the sacrificial horse stolen by Indra. Indra taught him the art of becoming invisible. Hence he was also called Antardhana. He had 4 brothers, Havyaksha, Dhumrakesha, Vrika and Dravinas. To them he gave the east, the south, the west and the north respectively. By his wife Shikandini, Vijitasva had 3 sons, Pavaka, Pavamana and Suchi. These fire gods descended by the curse of Vasishta, but the descent was only temporarily. Antardhana had by his other wife Nabhaswati 1 son, Havirdhana. Havirdhana had 6 sons, Barhishad, Gaya, Shukla, Krishna, Satya and Jitavrata. Of these, Barhishad was a great votary of Kriya or action, and he constantly performed yagnas. Even while he was performing one yagna, the place for another was preparing close by. Hence, he was called Prachina Barhis. King Prachina Barhis married Satadruti, the daughter of the ocean god, and he had by her 10 sons, all of whom were called Prachetas. The king ordered his sons to enlarge the creation. They went out to make tapas for 1000 years. Narada came to the king and told him that the way to mukti was not through Kriya Kanda. By performing sacrifices, he was only acquiring new karma. The only way to attain liberation was to know oneself. The rishi illustrated his teachings by the famous allegory of Puranjana. The king heard the story and its explanation from Narada. He did not wait for the return of his sons, but he called his ministers together and delivered to them his mandate that his sons were to succeed him on the throne. He went to the ashrama of Kapila for tapas and attained liberation. The allegory of Puranjana. Skanda 4, chapter 25 to 29. There was a king called Puranjana. He had a friend, but the king knew not his name nor his doings. Puranjana went in search of a place to live in. He went about on all sides, but found no suitable abode. At last, while roaming south of the Himalayas, he found one Puri in Bharatavarsha. The marks were all favorable. There were 9 gateways. In one of the gardens, he found a most beautiful young lady. She had 10 attendants. Each of them had hundreds of wives. One 5-headed serpent was the warder of the town, and he constantly guarded his mistress. The lady was on the lookout for one to be her lord. Puranjana broke forth into words of love and asked who she was. "O thou greatest of men," exclaimed the lady, "I know not who I am or who thou art, nor do I know who made us both. This only I know, that I now exist. I do not know even who made this town for me. These are my companions, male and female. The serpent guards the town even when we are all asleep. Luckily hast thou come here. I shall try with all my companions to bring to thee all objects of desire. Be thou the lord of this Puri for 100 years, and accept all enjoyments brought by me." Puranjana entered the Puri and lived in enjoyment there for 100 years. Of the 9 gateways, 7 were upper and 2 lower, 5 on the east, Purva, which also means front, 1 on the south, Dakshina, 1 on the north, Uttara, and 2 on the west, Paschima. 2 of them, Khadyota and Avirmukhi, were close to each other, and Puranjana used them whenever he would go out to see Vibhrajita in the company of Dyumat. Nalini and Nalini were also 2 passages built together. Puranjana used them with the help of Avadhuta in order to repair to Saurabha. The Mukhya passage was used for Apana and Bahudana. Through the southern passage, Pitruhu, Puranjana went with Shrutadhara to Dakshina Panchala, and through the northern passage, Devahu to Uttara Panchala. Through the western passage called Asuri, Puranjana went with Durmada to Gramaka. The other western passage was called Nirrati. Through that passage, Puranjana went with Lubdhaka to Vaishasa. There were 2 blind gates, that is, without opening, namely Nirvak and Pesaskrita. Puranjana used them for motion and action. He went inside the town with Vishuchina. There he experienced moha or delusion, prasada or contentment, and harsha or joy caused by his wife and daughters. Puranjana became thus attached to karma. He slavishly followed whatever the queen did. If she heard, the king heard. If she smelt, the king smelt. If she rejoiced, the king rejoiced. If she wept, the king wept. Puranjana merged his self entirely in that of his wife. Once upon a time, the king went out hunting into the forest Panchaprastha. His chariot had 5 swift-going horses, 2 poles, 2 wheels, 2 axles, 3 flags, 5 chains, 1 bridle, 1 charioteer, 1 seat for the charioteer, 2 yoke ends, 7 fenders, and 5 courses. He had a golden armor and an endless supply of arrows. Brihadbala was the commander of his forces. The king forgot his wife for the time being in the chase of deer, but he got tired and returned home. The queen would not speak to him in feigned anger. The king appeased her with gentle and flattering words of love. So passed the days in utter delusion. The king had 1,100 sons and 110 daughters. He gave them in marriage to duly qualified persons. Puranjana's sons had 100 sons each. The kingdom of Panchala became filled with the progeny of Puranjana. The king performed sacrifices for the welfare of his children and killed animals for the purpose. Chandavega, a Gandharva king, had a strong force of 360 white Gandharvas. Each of them had 1 black wife. By turns, these Gandharvas robbed the town of Puranjana. The serpent warder could not fight long against such odds. It lost strength day by day. The king and all the citizens became extremely anxious. There was a daughter of Kala who went about the world for a husband, but no one received her for a wife. She went to Narada and on the refusal of the sage cursed him to become a wanderer forever. She was referred, however, by Narada to Fear, the king of Yavanas. King Fear would not accept her for his wife, but he addressed her as his sister and assured her that she would enjoy all beings on earth if only she attacked them unnoticed. His Yavana troops would always accompany her as well as his brother Prajvara. The Yavana troops of King Fear under Prajvara and daughter of Kala attacked the Puri of Puranjana. The old serpent gave way. The Puri was burnt up by Prajvara. There was wailing all round. The serpent left the Puri. Puranjana was dragged out of it. The sufferings he had caused to others in sacrifices or otherwise reacted upon him. Long he suffered, forgetting even his old friends. His mind had been tainted by the constant company of women, and he had thought of his wife till the last moment. So he became a female in the next birth. She was born as a daughter of the Vidarbha king. Malayadhwaja, king of Pandya, defeated other princes in the fight for her hand, and the princess became his wife. She bore to the king 1 black-eyed daughter and 7 sons. The sons became kings of Dravida, and each of them had millions of sons. Agastya married the daughter of the king and had by her a son called Dridachyata. His son was Idmavaha. King Malayadhwaja divided the kingdom amongst his sons and ascended the hills for devotional meditation. His wife accompanied him. One day the princess found the body of her husband cold in death. With loud lamentations she prepared the funeral pyre, placed the king's body upon it and put fire thereon. She then resolved to burn herself on the same pyre. The former friend now appeared. Addressing the queen, he said, "Who art thou? Who is he lying on the funeral pyre that thou mournest aloud? Dost thou know me, thy friend, thy former companion? Dost thou remember even so much that thou hast a friend whom thou canst not recognize? Thou didn't leave me in search of some earthly swans on the Manasa Loka, and we lived together for 1,000 years. Desirous of worldly enjoyments, thou didn't leave me for the earth, and there didn't find a town with a woman as its mistress. The company of that woman spoiled thy vision and effaced thy memory. Hence thou hast attained this state. Thou art not the daughter of the Vidarbha king, nor is this king thy husband, nor was thou the husband of Puranjana. By my Maya thou misconceivest thyself as a man or a woman, but in reality both myself and thyself are Hansas. Wise men find no difference between us. If there is any difference between a man and his image, that is the difference between me and thyself." The other Hansa now regained his lost consciousness and was reawakened to his former state. This is the story of Puranjana. Now its explanation by Narada. Puranjana is Purusha, he who illumines the Pura with consciousness. The unknown friend is Ishvara. The Pura or Puri or town is a human body. The marks were all favorable. There were no deformities in the body. The 9 gateways are the 9 openings of the body. The young lady Puranjani is Buddhi. She is the mistress of the body. The 10 male attendants are the 5 Jnanendriyas or organs of perception and 5 Karmendriyas or organs of action. The wives of the attendants are the functions of the Indriyas. The 5-headed serpent is Prana. The 5 heads are its 5 subdivisions. 100 years is the full term of man's life. Khadyota, literally glow warm, is the left eye, for it has not the illumining capacity of the right eye. Avirmukhi or the great illuminator is the right eye. Vibhrajita is Rupa or object of sight. Dyumat is the perceiving eye. Nalini and Nalini are the left and right nostrils respectively. Avadhuta is Vayu. In the story it means the perceiving nose. Saurabha is Gandha or smell. Mukhya is mouth. Apana is speech. Bahudana is eating. Panchala is Pancha plus Ala. 5 capable, that which is capable of bringing to light such of the 5 objects of the senses as cannot be otherwise cognized, Shastra or spiritual teachings. The right ear is stronger than the left ear, therefore it is more prominent and useful in hearing the Shastras, of which the first to be heard is Karmakanda. A man by the observance of Karmakanda is called to the Pitris out through the passage after death. Lubdhak is Payu. Vaishasa is excrement. Nirvak is foot. Peshaskrita is hand. Of the Indriyas, hand and foot are blind, as there are no openings in them. Vishuchina is mind. Moha is the result of tamas. Prasada of sattva and harsha of rajas. The aforesaid names indicate enjoyment in the jagrat or waking state. The hunting represents enjoyment in the swapna or dream state. The chariot is the body in dream consciousness. The 5 horses are the 5 organs of perception, pranas. The bridle is manas, the seat of desires. The charioteer is buddhi. The yoke ends are sorrow and delusion. The 7 fenders are the 7 dhatus or essential ingredients of the body. The 5 courses are the 5 organs of action. The gold color of the armor is due to rajas. Brihadbala is the even perceiving mind. The sons are the transformations of perception. The daughters are the concepts following such transformations. Chandavega, the Gandharva king, is the year, every year of human life. The Gandharvas are days, their wives are nights. The 360 Gandharvas are the 360 days of the year. With their wives or nights, they form the number 720. The daughter of Kala is Jara or decrepitude. The Yavanas are diseases or infirmities. Fear is the king of all diseases and infirmities, namely death. Prajvara is destructive fever. As long as Purusha does not know his real self, but identifies himself with the gunas of Prakriti, he becomes subject to births and deaths. The only remedy for this malady is pure devotion to Guru and to Bhagavan. By such devotion, dispassion and wisdom are both acquired. Darbha is kusa grass, symbolical of yajna. Vidarbha is pure land. Malaya or the Deccan is famous for Vishnu worship. Malaya Dhwaja is therefore a Vaishnava king. It appears that Vaishnavism had its rise and growth in the south of India before it overspread northern India. This would be natural considering the hold of Vedic Brahmanism in northern India. Doing respect to Vishnu, Archana or worship of Vishnu, Bandhana or adoration of Vishnu, Dasya or consecration of oneself to the service of Vishnu. The other 2 divisions, Saukhya or companionship with Vishnu and Atma, Nivedana or complete resignation, are not mentioned in this connection as they relate to a highly advanced spiritual state. These modes of bhakti worship are prevalent in Dravida. The millions of sons are subdivisions of Shravana. Agastya is mind. Dridachyuta is one confirmed in dispassion. Idmavaha is one who goes to Guru fuel in hand for instructions. Ishvara, the unknown friend, called himself, and the Purusha 2 Kansas of the Manasa lake. Hansa is one absolutely pure. Manasa lake is the heart. For 1000 years, both Jiva and Ishvara remained together as friends, the same in essence and in form during the 1000 years of Mahapralaya at the end of a Kaipa. During Manvantaric manifestation, the Jiva parts from his friend Ishvara and launches into a wild course of enjoyments, of joys and sorrows. The touch of that fascinating lady Buddhi destroys all previous remembrances, and the Jiva plays several characters in the drama of life in dream and delusion. Narada concluded this eloquent exhortation. Know thou, O king, the deer skipping in the flower garden in company with its sweetheart, deeply attached to the sweets of that garden, devouring with eager ears the humming music of Brahmaras, little caring for the wolves on its way or for the arrows of the huntsman that pierce its back. The flowers are but women who bloom only to droop. The fragrance and honey, the sweets of the garden, are the enjoyments brought on by the karma of another birth. The music of Brahmaras is the pleasing conversation of women and others. The wolves are the days and nights. The huntsman who stealthily flings arrows at the deer is death. The deer is thy own self. Consider well the efforts of the deer. Concentrate chitta into the heart and all perceptions into chitta. Give up the company of women. Turn a deaf ear to all idle talks. Be devoted to that one true friend of Jivas, Ishvara. Retire. Why such beautiful teachings were withheld by his teachers, or forsooth, they knew not themselves. He requested Narada, however, to remove two doubts that were still lurking in his mind. Purusha acquires karma in one body, but he reaps the fruits of that karma in another body. One body is the doer, while another is the enjoyer and sufferer. To one body, the fruits of its own work are lost. To another body, there is an acquisition of fruits it did not sow. How can this be? This was the first doubt. What is done is done. Nothing apparently remains of our karma. How can then the sequences be accounted for? This was the second doubt. Narada replies, Purusha reaps the fruits in that very body without break, in which it acquires karma. But that body is the Linga Sharira, inclusive of Manas. As in dream, man works out the impressions of the wakeful state without changing the body. So he enjoys the fruits of karma created in one birth in the karma-made body of another birth. And the doer of karma is verily the manas and not the stula body. These are mine, I am so and so. Only such concepts of mind produce rebirth and not anything in the stula body. So the mind sows and the mind reaps. The body is merely the vehicle of birth producing thoughts. This is in answer to the first question. Now to the second. How do you know there is chitta or mind? All the senses are at one end and the same time in contact with the objects of all the senses. But still you perceive only one thing at a time. Hence you infer the existence of the mind. Similarly, by marking the tendency of the mind, their connection with a former birth is inferred. Otherwise, why should there be one mental affection at a time and not another? Then in this life, you never realize a thing which you never heard or saw or felt before. How can the mind then reproduce matters you never experienced before? The mind by its present characteristics gives an insight into the past as well as into the future. If sometimes happens that things are perceived in the mind with strange combinations in time, space and action as in dream. But men are endowed with mind, and the mind perceives one after another the objects of the senses in an enormous variety, and the perceptions are lost again. So not one experience is altogether strange. For instance, a man sees in dream that he is a king. He must have been a king in some birth or other. The present combination in the dream is untrue, but not so the kingly experience. The experience is always true with reference to some time, some space, some action or other. When the mind is intensely sattvic and becomes constantly devoted to Bhagavan, the whole universe is reflected on it. In Jiva, there is never a break in the egoistic experience as long as the Linga Sharira continues. There is only a seeming break in sleep, swoon and deep distress, such as death and fatal illness, but such break is due to a collapse of the perceiving senses. There is similarly a break in the fetal stage and in extreme childhood, but such break is due to imperfection of the senses. The moon, though not visible on the new moon night, does still exist. The connection with gross objects does not cease because there is a temporary absence of such objects. For are not thoughts about objects potent in their effects in dream? The Linga Sharira consisting in their essence of the 5 pure elements, Tanmatra, subject to the 3 gunas, extending over the 16 transformations of the Sankhya category, permeated with consciousness, is called Jiva. It is with this linga sharira that Purusha enters into a body or comes out of it, and it is with this sharira that he experiences joy, sorrow, fear, misery, and happiness. As the leech has its hold on the first blade of grass till it connects itself with another, so the jiva identifies itself with one body till it enters another. Manas only acquires karma by its contemplation of the objects of the senses. The bondage is thus created by avidya. Therefore, do thou meditate on Hari to free thyself from all worldly attachments and to be fixed in him forever. Therefore, do thou meditate on Hari to free thyself from all worldly attachments and to be fixed in him forever. Therefore, do thou meditate on Hari to free thyself from all worldly attachments and to be fixed in him forever.